Welcome to Table for 92, element number 44, Ruthenium. It's number 44 because it has exactly 44 protons within its nucleus. Ruthenium is not really found in foods, so I'm making up some steak tartare in honor of the discovery of ruthenium that was made at the University of Kazan in Tartaristan, Russia. Russia, of course, has a long history of producing top-quality scientists and horrible autocratic rulers. Yeah, Putin and his sycophantic cronies can go straight to hell. Anyway, the discovery of ruthenium took place over a long period with many different scientists contributing to it. Officially, the real discovery of ruthenium was in 1840 in Kazan, but there was a lot of stuff going on building up to that for a while. In 1807, a Polish scientist, Jerzy Snianecki, who was working with a platinum ore from South America, believed he discovered a new metal within the ore. Ruthenium is the first element in the platinum group, this square of transition metals on the periodic table. So ruthenium is almost always found alongside platinum. Snianecki named this new metal he found in the platinum ore Vestium, after an asteroid that had just been discovered named Vestia. Snianecki published his findings the next year in 1808, but French scientists tried replicating his experiments and couldn't isolate any new metal. Snianecki simply removed his claim and people just kind of forgot about it. It is interesting to me that this was going on in the middle of the Napoleonic Wars in Europe. Like, stuff is blowing up everywhere in 1808. But still, good science is being made in spite of that. Next, in 1825, a German chemist, Gottfried Osan, was working with a platinum ore from the Ural Mountains and discovered 3 new metals: pluranium, polonium, and ruthenium. Again, though, none of those finds could be verified, and Osan withdrew his claims. 15 years later, in 1840, another chemist working at the University of Kazan, Karl Klaus, was investigating the aforementioned ruthenium and was finally able to authenticate the previous discovery. He kept the name ruthenium since it comes from the Latin word for Russia, Ruthenia. Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia. There still is a little pushback that Snianecki, back in 1807, had actually discovered ruthenium, but that's not really accepted by modern-day historians and scientists. Steak tartare. The name comes from the Tatar people of Central Asia. These are Turkic peoples that became part of the early Mongol Empire that would take over a huge part of the world. A lot of Tatars would eventually stay in the Russian lands they conquered, and today there are still millions of ethnic Tatars in Russia, especially Tataristan, where Kazan is the capital. The legend goes that the Mongols and the Tatars would take a chunk of raw horse meat, which was a big part of their diet, and put it under their saddles in the morning and ride all day long, tenderizing the meat and have it for dinner, still raw. That's almost definitely not a true story, but that's where we get the name from, Tatar. Actually, not. That's part of the legend too. Steak tartare is actually named after tartar sauce that would have accompanied early versions of this dish, and the name tartar sauce also is thought to come from the Tatar peoples, but that's probably not true either. A lot of this, we just don't know where the names came from. Steak tartare really only came about in the last couple hundred years in France. Traditionally, it is done with horse meat. Well, it's illegal in the US to buy horse meat, but I've got venison here from a deer I harvested last fall, and that's supposed to be the closest thing to horse meat in taste. So I've got the best cut of the deer, the tenderloin, and I'm gonna mince this up with salt and pepper and then put it in the freezer for about 15 minutes, let it firm up. So ruthenium is not used all that much, only like 30 tons of the stuff are extracted every year. It is used in microchips and solar panels, turning light energy into electrical energy, but the biggest headline lately about ruthenium was from 2017, when a nuclear power plant in the southern Ural Mountains of Russia released a ton of ruthenium-103, a radioactive isotope of ruthenium that got sent all over Europe, increasing radiation levels all over the continent. But of course, Russia denied anything to do with it and arrested any scientists and environmentalists that happened to report the leak. So, thanks again, Putin, you son of a bitch. So, the Vatican made it illegal to eat horse meat in Catholic Europe during the Middle Ages, so it wasn't until 1870 that horse meat was eaten in Catholic France. So it was during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870-1871, when Paris was completely surrounded by the Prussians, horse meat came back on the menu. When the French army collapsed, Paris went into revolution, starting the Paris Commune. Absolutely fascinating time. But they refused to surrender, so they started eating all the animals left in Paris as food got cut off from the city. And it got weird. They actually butchered all the animals in the Paris Zoo to survive. Elephant was on the menu in Parisian cafes for a time. And yeah, horses were eaten for the first time in a while. At the turn of the 20th century, horse meat tartare was served at all the best hotels in Paris, but it was actually called beefsteak or l'américain, apparently because there was a similar story to the Tatars in that American cowboys in the Old West did the same trick with meat tenderizing under their saddles, but again, that's probably just a completely made-up story, and no one really knows why it's called that. Escoffier, the famous French chef, seems to have started calling it steak tartare in the 1920s when he served it with tartar sauce, and now that's the name everybody seems to use, even if you don't have tartar sauce on the side. A fun way to do it is to have all the ingredients around the meat. You got red onion, tartar, capers, horseradish, fig spread, Tabasco sauce, Worcestershire, and some ciabatta bread with a raw egg on top. And, you know, just kind of mix up the ingredients how you like. See, you know, it's different with every bite. And yeah, obviously there's a risk in eating raw stuff, but you know, hey, the French, they know what they're doing with food. For me, I'll probably take a little bit of all this, probably a little bit more Tabasco than necessary because I have a problem with Tabasco. Well, that was steak tartare, not named after the Tatar peoples, and Ruthenium, named after Russia, where Ruthenium was discovered in Kazan, Tartaristan. And as always, f Putin. Thank you. See you next time. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button, because, just please do it, just for me.